must be really desperate.
With only 3 months left in my bank account, you could say you're looking at someone with nothing to lose.
This is Tatiana Hunter with Screen Rant. How are you both today?
Hi, good, thanks.
Thank you.
Sue, I'd like to start with you. Pachinko Season 2 takes us to 1945, and we see the devastating effects of World War II on Japan and Japanese villagers. Can you talk about portraying a perspective that's not often shown in Western media and how you wanted to approach that?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I thought I knew World War II pretty well. You know, it's a huge subject, so I'm not saying I was an expert. But when we were diving into the World War II in the writer's room and reading historical accounts, I was really shocked by how limited my perspective was, right? Because I had learned World War II from the perspective of the US. And specifically the firebombing of Japan, I had no clue how horrific it was. The amount of destruction that the American planes wreaked on Japan, the number of cities destroyed, the number of lives. And I just wish our show did have sometimes more time to be able to really show all of it. But it was really eye-opening and humbling.
Jin Ha, we see a lot of back and forth this season between Solomon and Sunja as she kind of grapples with the decisions he's making for his career. What do you think their understanding of each other is this season? How does it evolve?
Well, it's the relationship there are many turning points, but one of the clear turning points is the brief conversation they have in the pachinko parlor after the grocery store in episode 1, I believe. That's where it starts, right? It doesn't stay there, but that's the jumping off point of him trying to, I think in his mind, emancipate himself from, let's say, the generational trauma that perhaps he feels has been weighing him down. These are all his subjective, feelings about it, but ultimately, I think it's a misunderstanding between the two. I think he's misinterpreting a lot, unfortunately, but as we do. That being said, I think their relationship, Sunja, I don't think, I think I don't know, but I believe that there may be, especially in season 2, a growing sense of urgency within Sunja about Solomon. I think it's as the season goes on and as more decisions by Solomon are made or more, advances or more events occur, without spoiling anything, I think she starts to wonder, as Mozasu does as well throughout the season, like, is this enough? Like, are we doing enough? I thought it was going to be okay after, oh God, spoiler, after like her relationship with Noah, but it's what's really interesting is seeing the Noah timeline happening with the earlier timeline, and then seeing YJ's, the 89 timeline talk about Noah with Mozasu, Mozasu and Sunja talking about Noah. I think that's so powerful to me because we see when YJ's portrayal of Sunja like mentions Noah or when it comes up, there's suddenly this shock of deep and real like hurt that comes through, because for me, I'm like, as a fan of the book, I know it's coming, but also just watching the show, like we see what the relationship was and had been, and what was the weight and the tensions within those relationships because of the pressure that Noah was feeling at the time as well. And we see it sort of paralleling a little bit with Solomon, but it's so different, and in that way, I think it's really exciting to like compare the two, have them juxtaposed.
Absolutely. And speaking of Noah, Sue, season 1, he was coming like, there in whispers, in the shadows, in the corners. Yeah. And this time we really get to see him be the center, like the central key to the Baek family dynamic, especially in the 40s timeline. Can you talk about integrating him more into the story? And then how long do you see this story going? Like, how do you hope to approach his adulthood and his personal journey that we haven't seen yet?
Well, we always said that season 2 was going to be the handing of the torch to the next generation. And so that's Noah and Mozasu. And their storyline very much takes up a little bit more space than they were in season 1. And that's sort of the DNA of this show, is one generation begets another. And even in that storytelling mode, we wanted to have that feeling. I think, in terms of where the story goes with Noah, I mean, it's probably the strongest, most devastating moment in the book, what happens to him. And without going into it, I hope we are given a chance to be able to tell that story.
I hope so too. Even though I don't want to see it. But Jin Ha, I love your chemistry with Anna Sawai's Naomi. Can you talk about, kind of like a roller coaster ride of emotions they go through this season?
I'm super excited for audiences to see that relationship bubble and grow and develop, and then so that the audiences can also further appreciate the conversations that they have in episode 6, which are so real and so rooted in the social dynamics that were at play then. I mean, today in different contexts and in different players, it's always the Romeo and Juliets, of the world. It's like, why can't this work? What are the reasons that, in spite of the organic feelings that these two people have grown for each other, why can't this work? And I think we relate to that deeply. And I'm so grateful that we were able to include that part of their lives, not just for Solomon, but for Naomi as well. Yeah, I appreciated it because it was always handled with such sensitivity and intentionality, like that relationship, and how would it have worked, and what would it have been like, and how would it have grown and blossomed, and how would it have, what would have been the hiccup or the speed bump that would it have come across. And it's obviously in the show it's dramatic, but it was a joy. And also getting to work with the Emmy-nominated Anna Sawai is such a joy, and yeah, I love her dearly.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much. The show is, it continues to be amazing, and I cannot wait.
Thank you so much.
For more.
Where is that?
Have a
This
great
is
day.
from, what is that?
Yeah.
That's
This is the scene. It's the scene where he's like in the field. See, I'm Sunja.
And Sandra walks away when they just get to the barn.
Is this season 2? Oh, cool.
Yes,
I was like, you got a screenshot of season 2? Wow.
네가 누군지는 잊지 말해. 그럴 수 있지?